Hello, David, mate. I'm recording. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, yeah.
I bet you are. This is
Well,
your time. This is your time.
so they tell me. Yeah. How long
It's-
are we gonna do, mate?
oh, I don't know. Whatever. What can you do? Half an hour? Bit, whatever. I don't know. Bit
We'll
more. I
do.
don't know. Whatever you want.
No, we can do an hour.
We can do an hour. What a joy. I got David like you for an hour with us, ladies and gentlemen. We're blooming honoured. I've been meaning to speak to you for ages. The years just rolled by, David.
I know it does. Yes. A time that doesn't exist is getting faster. It seems to me.
Absolutely. Well, you're looking very well, I gotta say.
Yeah, I feel good.
You
Yeah.
look great, mate. I've got a slight I got a slight soften my appearance on my Zoom button here because I'm not getting any younger. So I thought I'd hit but I'm only joking. But David, it's great to see you, honest to God, and welcome back. The last time I saw you, of course, was in the London lockdowns. That's a long time ago. The London March lockdowns.
Oh
When I
God,
that
yes.
when I got banned, that was a long time ago now, and a lot has changed since then. But we're still the choking hands of the system are still doing their grisly job of choking people and waking them up all at the same time. It's a very interesting time, David. There's so much I want to speak to you about, but government's still a sickness. It's like excruciating. I just want to start with this. Look, sorry, everybody. It's excruciating for people, David. I've had someone in my gallery just this morning going to the food bank and really struggling. Most people are struggling. This bloody system has turned people into beggars and prostitutes, as you've been talking about for a long time. And your books have talked about that. Robots Rebellion is one of my favorite titles of yours, and now the new one, The Roadmap. But it pains me, David. I'm in pain at people's pain. It's almost like we've taken the Bodhisattvic vow where sort of we won't move on till everyone moves on. And I know you've done so much work over the years, David. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I know I do go on about this a bit too much, but I saw you nearly 40 years ago in Bath, for God's sake. Um,
Right.
you know what I mean? There was no one there. David Icke, you're still on Wikipedia as the conspiracy sort of theorist, but not anymore, everybody. David, man, you've done so much. Thank you for being you, and thank you for everything. And I don't know where to start with you. I won't gob off because I kept going. I get carried away. I'll have a chat when we go after. I'll say a few words, but well, it's all coming out, isn't it? The amnesia is lifting, the chloroform is rising. And people are really getting it at last. The Epstein, the Gaza, the this, the Iran, the Trump, the. And one thing I want to say, sorry, David, before I unleash you on the public here, people are still coming in my gallery, people, and saying he's playing 5D chess. Yeah, he's taking down the deep state. He's tricking them. It's like he's going to take down London. The David, what? Even Alex at last, Alex Jones, I love him dearly. He's done amazing stuff. But at last, even Alex is saying, that's enough. He's a nut job, you know.
Well, when he came on the scene, Trump in 2016 on the political scene for a long time, and bailed out by the Rothschilds when he went under to the tune of billions. Um, when he came on the political scene in 2016, I called him out immediately as a fraud and not the man that he claimed to be. But you see, if you can persuade people that they have no power individually or collectively, then they go in search of a savior. And, I think that the more that I have gone deeper and deeper into this, the more blatant it is that religion is the very foundation of human control. And I don't just mean religion in terms of temples and churches and mosques and synagogues. For me, religion is a mentality, and it works the same whether it's Christianity or Hinduism or Judaism or Islam, it works just as well with Orthodox science, because Orthodox science is a religion. And so if you look at the dynamics, the mathematics of how a few have always controlled the world, and through what we know as history anyway, a lot to be questioned about that, the few have always controlled the many. Now, why is that? Because mathematically it should be impossible. It's not, because of the way the few orchestrate society, and crucially, the very foundation of everything, they manipulate humanity's perception of both reality and self-identity. So if you're looking at a vast number of people, and you are relative few in the full knowledge of what you're doing, then somehow you've got to break up the many. So first of all, you need people to have rigid, unquestioned belief systems, whether it's a religion, whether it's a cultural belief system, whether it's a political belief system, left and right. You need them to have a belief system that is largely, in terms of religion, not at all often unquestioned and rigid. Because then what you're getting the population to do that you're targeting is you're getting them to put a prison cell over their minds. A prison cell that says, this is my belief system, and I'm not going beyond it and exploring other possibilities to explain reality, to explain the world, to explain the nature of self. I'm not going there, because if I do go there, then I'm leaving my religion, my belief system, whatever it is. So if you look at bricks and mortar religion, as my father called it, then you can't go beyond your story, and each religion has its own story, into other areas of exploration and possibility, because if you do, you're called a blasphemer. You are blaspheming God, especially if you have the nerve, the audacity to think of yourself as an expression of what people call God. Call God, I emphasize. And then you have Orthodox science. Now, Orthodox science is supposed to be against religion. It's supposed to be sort of anti-religion, but it works in exactly the same way, because it's the same mentality. So you have an Orthodox science belief system, and that puts the prison cell over your mind. And if you go beyond it and start exploring other possibilities beyond that in Orthodox science, then you are a pseudoscientist, or you're dabbling in the paranormal. And paranormal is a very interesting word, a very interesting term. It means anything that Orthodox science can't explain, but it's blatantly happening. And another great aspect of this is, once you've broken up the target population into these rigid belief systems, then you've got the perfect environment to play them off against each other and divide and rule the population. So the population's fighting itself and seeking to impose its belief on others, and not focusing collectively on the fact that this small group has everyone, no matter what their belief, in its gun sights. And another aspect of this whole religion thing is that they all have saviors. So in Hinduism, there's multiple saviors. There's so many, you lose count. In Christianity, the savior is Jesus. And if you look at other religions like Islam, then the savior is Allah. They all have their saviors. And this savior mentality is basically creating a dynamic in which you are down here and the savior is up there. And then you come into politics and you see the same mentality, the same dynamic. So this whole movement they call MAGA around Trump and supporting Trump over the years is a religion, and it has a savior. It's no accident, surprise. It's easy to call that the extreme of MAGA has perceived Trump to be some kind of religious figure who was saved by God to save America. And so you have this this idea of the savior, and the idea is you give your power away to the savior. And I mean, the Nazis talked about this. They said, keep your propaganda simple. Mm. So what's more simple than if I believe in Jesus, I'll be saved? That's good. That's nice and simple. Well, if I support Trump, then we'll be saved from the globalists, even though he's owned by the globalists.
My God.
It's just extraordinary. And the thing is that if you look at religion, I don't care which one it is, what you're looking at is the suspension of critical thinking. Because if you look at the religious stories, they demand the suspension of critical thinking. That's why religions say you must have faith. Mm. What is faith? It's the belief in something without the evidence to support the belief. That's what it is. Now, you can, once you get into that mentality, then you can apply that to politics. In that, how come I could call Trump out in 2016 and say this guy is a fraud, and he's not what he says he is, and he actually is owned by the very people you claim to be opposing, and yet it's only now, in the last year, sometimes in the last few days, that those so-called influencers that have largely come out of the mainstream since COVID and taken over the alternative media in terms of algorithmic support and financial support, how come it's only now, 10 years later, 9 years later at the most, that they are, at the least rather, or whichever it is, that they're now saying, Trump's not what we thought he was. No, he never was. He never was.
Better late than never, like, yeah. God.
Yeah, but this is the point. When you're looking for a savior, when you're looking for something that says, I need to be saved because I'm externalizing everything because I don't realize the power I have, both individually and collectively, then what you do is exactly the same as what you do with a religion. You suspend critical thinking. You kind of filter out all the red flags and all the flashing lights that say in 2016, Trump is not the guy he's claiming to be. And of course, what's happened since is all the Epstein file stuff has started to make the Trump supporters think, the less extreme of them think, and then the Iran war, etc., has made them think even more and filtered out even more of them. But he was always what he is. He was always a front man for this global cult, as I call it, because you know, as I've said many times, if you are, and this is what people miss, they say they get it, but they don't. These influencers, these people that supported Trump for most of the last 10 years, people like Alex Jones, people like Candace Owens, people like Tucker Carlson, people like all these other mainstream people that have come into the alternative media. And the thing about the religion, like I say, is you have to suspend critical thinking, otherwise the stories start to disappear. I've gone in the roadmap to a number of, well, I've got 28 chapters plus a postscript in the roadmap, and 5 of the chapters are focused on religion in its various forms and various aspects. And when you look at the stories that people believe without question, they can only believe them in the face of the evidence by suspending critical thinking. So what you do is you apply that to your politics, and you only by suspending critical thinking and not looking at the evidence that was screaming at you about Trump could you go for most of 10 years in support of him.
Well said, David. It is an amazing time to be on the planet. There's no doubt about it there, and I can hardly believe what's going on. It's incredible, and I don't want to keep going on about this, but you know, people years ago were scared to say David Icke, right? I was never. I got to tell you, right? I got to tell you, I was never. And my wife did told me not to say this on you, but she told me to say this on you, and I thought I don't know if I'm going to, but I will because it's a very interesting point. I had the bailiffs came around the other day to pay me a visit, right? I had a parking fine and I didn't pay it. I thought I had paid it. To be dead honest with you, I really did. It was 60 quid. I turned around in London in a bloody bus lane, and the next thing it was 60 quid. I thought I'd paid it. I really did. I didn't see any letters. I wouldn't have let it get this far. And now it's 425 quid. So the bailiff came in my shop, guy from Wales. He's watching this. Hey, mate, how's it going? I told you I was going to see David. He come in and we were chatting, and it's really strange, David, how this the chloroform, the smelling salts is in the air more and more and more now. And we got chatting, and I said, I don't envy you doing your job. I said, I know you've got kids to feed and all that. He said, no, I don't, all blah, blah, blah. And next thing, he said, oh, yeah, I do watch stuff. I watch stuff about that. Because I said, I'm trying to expose these very people that, we're working for in a way. And he said, I watched David Icke and everything. I said, really? I said, he's on my show next week. So more and more and more, David, the people that you wouldn't expect are really starting to get it now. And that is a very exciting time. And I call that sort of the inception of manual override, where we've been like on an aircraft. The doors are locked, the pilots are in there, you can't do anything, it's on automatic pilot, and that's what worries us about AI, of course, and you'll talk about that in a minute, I'm sure. But we haven't been able to do anything because almost we've been in denial. We think they're doing the best for us, but now it's almost like there's smelling salts coming into the cab, and we've got to take back what manual override. How we're going to do that is another story. I suppose the very recognition of it is the first thing, like Jeff said. You can't escape a prison till you see it. So that's where we are now. I spoke to David Devine. Well, now what then? But people are like biblical scholars are saying to me, David, things like, "Don't bother doing anything. It's got to play out, right? The whole grisly thing of evil controlling has got to play out." And I want to get your take on that as well. It's like you can't do anything about it. And I'm not talking about the spiritual deniers like in Totnes where I live. They'll, what you resist persists. Everything's happening perfectly. If you focus on something, David, something bad, it gives it energy, right? There's a good one for you, right? And all that kind of nonsense, how about what you don't resist persists. So I find that in Totnes now is falling away a lot more now, and people are more and more realizing that you have to do something, not only see it, you have to act. And there's a lot of people like Cabby, there's Cabby groups here that people are joining, whereby they're trying to find ways of getting over the system and pulling out of the system and stuff like that. But I wanted to ask you about that before we carry on about the Bible thing. And people are saying it's a biblical thing, it's playing out. And I also want to ask you where you are with that, David, about the good and evil battle, not only here in physical form, which you've talked about many times, but also on other levels, people are waiting for a savior, like you said, that we're brainwashed in school. We're looking for someone to tell us what to do. We leave school, it's the boss. We're scared of them just in case they fire us. Then it's the politicians. They change in name, but not in nature. Like Matt Letizia said, different cheeks on the same ass. But where do you see that, David? Where are we now with that? With that evil and good and evil thing. Because sorry to carry on, guys, but one thing is very important to say that generally the people in control are ethically compromised. They don't care what they do and how many people they kill, clearly, as long as they get their goals of short-term greed, profit, power, and debt and slavery. But the people of goodwill, David, are generally have got a cut-off point where they won't go and blow these people's brains out and do terrible things to try and stop evil. So sorry to go on a bit about it there, David, but where are we with that? We're at a crossroads,
Well,
clearly.
to answer that question, I'm going to have to talk for a while
Go on then.
because there's a lot of dots to connect that I've been doing for the last 36 years. In terms of the Bible, okay, I've described, and it's got me a lot of stick on X, but of course, the thing is about X is it's not real life. It's basically a cesspit. There are some nice people and good people and intelligent people on X, but there's extraordinary numbers of people who are they're basically minds. Their minds have a padlock on them. They're the very people that I'm talking about in terms of putting this prison cell over their minds. And when you meet people in the street, I get stopped often by people in the street and cafes and stuff. You find a completely different human being to the ones that you massively, overwhelmingly maybe, but certainly massively find on X. So this social media thing is not real life. There is an awakening going on outside of the X mentality that is in many ways the real awakening. Let me just start by just talking about what I've seen happen in the post-COVID years. Suddenly, well, let me put it this way: if I'm this global cult manipulating and directing human society in a particular direction, then I'm looking at COVID and I'm thinking, yeah, okay, we needed to do that. It was a dry run for what we're planning. It also moved a lot of things forward very quickly. And it also gave us a litmus test on how pliable the population is in terms of doing what we tell them, even in the absence of evidence, right? But they would say a lot of people eventually, as a result of the COVID period, realized actually there is some kind of conspiracy going on. So what you then ask yourself is, okay, well, where are these people getting their information from then? Well, it's not the mainstream media, because this awakening mentality has complete contempt for it. They're lied to all the way through COVID for a start. So where are they getting it from? Well, they're getting it from this alternative media. Okay, so what we need to do, because we can't manipulate this mentality, this awakening mentality through the mainstream. So we need to get our people into the alternative. Now, the thing is that you don't need, there will be some who are put in there that know exactly what they're doing. But most of them, they don't have to know what they're doing. They just have to have a belief system that suits what you want. And that belief system is, okay, look, the genie's out of the bottle for many people as a result of COVID. They realize there's some kind of conspiracy going on. And we're not really going to be able to put that genie back in the bottle completely. So what we have to do is we have to hold the line. We have to keep people focused on the fact that the conspiracy is just basically the political financial arena. That's it. It's the globalists. And we have to focus on that and keep them focused. So you put people into the alternative media, you give them massive algorithmic support while shadow banning those you don't want people to hear. And you give them financial support. And what you want is people who, yes, some people, like I say, you put in there who know exactly what they're doing, but the rest of them, you just want people who have the mentality, who actually believe that the conspiracy is the political financial arena. And you put them in and you promote the hell out of them. And what you do then is, it's interesting that exactly the same dynamic happens that I've described earlier, whether it's mainstream orthodox science or whether it's religion. You create an Overton window of perception that this is what the conspiracy is. And you want the focus to stop people going on beyond politics and finance and all that level of it, corporations, to see actually the real scale of what's going on. And it's in that understanding of the scale that the bloody answers lie. There's no answers here. What are the answers here? You vote for Party A, okay. Well, you don't like what they've done. How do I get rid of them? Oh, you vote for Party B, okay. Well, they're pretty much done the same. How do I get rid of them? Oh, you vote for Party A again. This is what happens here. There's no answers here. The answers lie in the greater understanding of reality and what this conspiracy really is. And if you notice, as we come round to the question about religion, how the alternative media, not least in America, but wider as well, is dominated by the Christian belief system. You look at your Candace Owens, you look at your Tucker Carlsons, you look at so many of these people that have got the real big algorithmic support, and they're religion based. Their perception is founded on religion, and religion is based on the Bible. And the Bible, there are some good things in the Bible, some good lines in the Bible, but it's like everything else. Critical thinking says, "Oh yeah, that makes sense to me. That approach makes sense to me. Oh no, sorry, I can't accept that." But critical thinking is basically banned from religion because you have to take the package. And what you've got is an Old Testament with a bloodthirsty tyrant God, and you've got the New Testament, which has a more, shall we say, less bloodthirsty God, but still is supposed to have sacrificed his only begotten son to save the sins of humanity, something I've never kind of followed and worked out the logic of that. But anyway, so you've got two gods, basically. But because it's in the Bible, and the Bible is the Old Testament and the New Testament, you somehow have to make sense of that contradiction and disappear up your own backside trying to do it. And because this is important to current events, because the Old Testament is basically all about what they call ancient Israel and how God chose Jewish people as the chosen people, the Christians that follow the Bible also have to encompass that somehow. um, and so you have a ridiculously few compared with the impact of Jewish people, about anything between 17, 18 million, something like that, in a population that we're told is 8 billion. That's what they tell us anyway. And so you're not going to get support on any scale for what that which controls that direction of that 17, 18 million. You're not going to get massive support for that unless you encompass a whole new and very, very much larger constituency. And because you have an Old Testament and you have a New Testament, you pull in the Christians in support of what you are seeking to do, because they are God's chosen people. And what God says, the Bible is God's word. It cannot be questioned, even though it's completely contradictory. So you then have this massive support for Israel over the years from the Christian community, and particularly what's become known as the Christian Zionists. And what I've been saying in the books now for such a long time is part of that that perceptual lasso of the Christian mindset as well as the Jewish mindset. They're victims of their leadership, much of which is not actually Jewish, ironically.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing that you've explained very well.
Oh, another story.
God.
What you do is you've got your Old Testament, and you've got the book of Revelation at the end of the New Testament. And what you want to do to scam the Christian belief system is to make events happen that appear to be the prophecies of the Old Testament coming to fruition, happening. And you sell this as God is making this happen. God is fulfilling God's prophecy. But what you're doing, humans, is making it happen. So part of the prophecy they go on is that the Alaska Mosque on what Jews and Christians call Temple Mount Jerusalem has to go to be replaced by the third, basically Solomon's temple. And that happens when the Messiah is coming. And that's another thing. There's a Jewish Messiah and there's the Jesus Messiah. And a lot of Christians think they're the same one. They ain't. They ain't. Look at it. Anyway, so what then happens is you have to fulfill the prophecy. Not God, humans. And so, for instance, just as an example, part of the prophecy is that in the run-up to the temple being restored, that there will be is it a red heifer?
Yeah.
And it has to not ever have a yoke on its neck, and it has to be born in Israel, right? So what do? They don't leave it to God. they import red heifers from Texas, right? So that's just one example of the way they appear to be making it happen. And look at what's happened with the war in Iran, and look at the stories that are coming out from the U.S. military and the Pentagon, because people like Pete Hegseth,
Oh,
who now calls himself the Secretary of War, the man's imbecilic,
what a
but
nut. What a nut.
he absolutely believes in the prophecies. He believes in the whole prophecy of the temple being the third temple being put into place and the Alaska Mosque disappearing. And of course, once upon a time, if someone had suggested that people have gone, you're having a laugh, mate. Can you imagine the bloody bloodbath that would happen in Israel if you tried to do that to the mosque? Oh, really? Have you seen Gaza? Have you seen the West Bank? It suddenly becomes feasible in terms of control by the Israeli authorities and the IDF and Mossad and all the rest of it. So you are appearing to make something happen, and you've got someone in the Pentagon, Hegseth, who believes it all and wants to make it happen. And you've seen these stories coming out of the Pentagon while the war with Iran has been going on, where they're talking about it in biblical terms, that this war with Iran is part of the God's prophecies, and it's unbelievable. It's, what did they say? They say it's a quote from Voltaire, whoever it came from, it doesn't matter. It's a great quote about that if you can make people believe absurdities, they'll commit atrocities, and that is absolutely clearly true if you look through history. So this whole unfolding of the Bible, it's God's prophecy, yeah, and something else. You don't only get support for what you're doing as a result of people believing it's God, you also get people, and you've mentioned this already, who become inert and think they don't have to do anything because God's making it happen. And so you sit there and you're like the frog in the saucepan, getting hotter and hotter until it boils. And when it boils, you go, oh my God, what's happening? Well, what's happening is exactly what you were manipulated to allow to happen by sitting there thinking God was doing it. So what I'm saying in the roadmap is this, and I am going to have to talk for a little while to connect these dots.
Oh, for it. It's great, yeah.
So the question is, what is this God that they are worshipping? Right. Well, what I'm saying, and increasingly mainstream scientists in ever greater numbers are saying, but I was saying it back at the turn of the millennium, is that we are living in a fake reality, a simulated reality, a matrix reality, a very much matrix type reality. And that it's a trap. It's a trap which is based on a simple energetic equation, if you like, that your perceptions dictate your frequency. So this is mainstream science. Every time we think and every time we feel emotion, which is constantly, we're generating a frequency. It's what people call vibes. The amount or the frequency band that people can see, visible light, as scientists call it, is so tiny, it's laughable. We're basically blind. We're only seeing the tiniest band of frequency. And everything outside that frequency, we cannot see. So I'm sitting here, and infinity, all that exists, is in the space that I'm sitting in. But my biological computer, as I call it, will only decode a tiny band of frequency into a visual reality. And you know, these frequencies we give off, we call vibes. Oh, I've got good vibes from him, I've got bad vibes from them. And that's the energy. It's outside of visible light, so we can't see it, but we can feel it. And the totality of that thought and emotional state, which kind of changes as we change, is what I would call the perceptual field, or the mind. It's an electromagnetic field. Some people call it the auric field. Now that perceptual field, if it remains only within the frequency field of the matrix, the simulation is in the matrix, and of the matrix, we're getting all of our information from within the matrix. When you realize that we are not the body, we are consciousness. Ultimately, we are an expression of infinite awareness, infinite consciousness. That expansion of self-identity from I am a human, we're not, it's just an experience, very brief. The perception of being subordinate to some God we have to keep happy, those mentalities operate within the matrix frequency band. If that's your belief system, you will be in the matrix and of the matrix. Once you realize, hey, that's just an experience, this is just a vehicle, and you start to open your mind and open it by expanding your sense of self-identity. I am consciousness, ultimately all consciousness. If I expand enough, then you start to tap in to awareness, knowing, insight outside of this matrix band of frequency. That's all it is. And suddenly you're tapping in to levels of awareness that can see what you cannot see without that connection. And suddenly you're looking around and you see the world in a completely different way. You're seeing how things connect instead of seeing everything as just individual random dots. And that's because you're now in the world, in the matrix, but you're not of the matrix in terms of your perception of reality. Now, that which created this matrix, which is a non-human force, ultimately as a state of extraordinarily chaotic, schismatic consciousness, it wants to stop that connection because the game's up if it does. So everything is designed to focus your attention on either I'm a human and nothing more, or I am a human, but I'm subordinate to some judgmental God. So then the next question is, what is this God that religion is telling people to worship? Well, if you look at what I'm looking for in my research over the decades are patterns of agreement between belief systems that otherwise would disagree on so much. And one of the patterns of agreement, if you look at religions, you look at native peoples, native belief systems carried by the shamans, etc., there is a very clear common agreement that this world, this human world, is manipulated from the unseen. You have this concept in Christianity of Satan or the devil. You have the concept in Islam of shaitan. You have the concept in the Gnostic belief system of Yalda Baoth or the demiurge. It's, I would say, a state of consciousness which created this matrix for reasons I go into in the book. So what this consciousness has done under different names in different cultures, but the theme you find everywhere. This schismatic, chaotic, inverted state of consciousness, that's why everything's inverted. That's why Satanism inverts everything. That's why it inverts the cross. That's why it inverts the pentagram, because this consciousness is basically an inversion. And it's very stupid. It's very clever. But in terms of consciousness and awareness, it's very stupid. If you look at the themes in different religions and different cultures, the basic theme is this consciousness, this, I'll call it Yalda Baoth for a term, but I could call it many other things as well. It's the foolish one. It's not very bright, but it's very clever. And cleverness can be seriously advanced and enhanced, even though you are not very bright by consciousness standards, by you having knowledge of how reality works and what the hell is actually going on, because you're making it going on, and keeping that knowledge from the target population. You want the target population in ignorance of what you know, because then, although you may not be, by consciousness standards, terribly bright, sharpest pin in the box, you are in a tremendously powerful position of control by what you know compared with what you allow humans to know. So humans are living in a reality they think is a certain way, and it's actually nothing like that. But you know that, and you know how it works. So that's a power dynamic immediately. That's why this global cult, this global network of secret societies, which serves this Yalda Baoth consciousness, that's why they pass on through their degrees, their inner circle, advanced knowledge of both where the world's being taken and why, and the nature of reality itself. And this same cult has created the sources of communication and information that the target population get. So this cult created the so-called education system, which is a programming system. It created and owns the media. It's infiltrated massively much of the alternative media now, or that which gets all the algorithmic promotion. And so you've got advanced knowledge being passed on through the cult network, and the target population being kept in ignorance of what they know. And it's an interesting dynamic, again, that when you work your ass off to uncover what they know and you pass it on to the population, as I know over the years, the population will go, "You're mad, mate. What are you talking about? That's not possible," because One of the greatest forms of mind control
Not so mad now, though, by
is
God. Yeah.
is to squeeze the
Mm,
sense of the possible.
mm,
Because if you can squeeze people's sense of the possible among the population, then when what's actually happening is communicated to them, they'll say that's not possible, that's impossible, that's ridiculous. So, I mean, how many people know how reality actually works, even though it can be confirmed? Is because this cult does not want you to know that. Now, this consciousness, this Yoda Baoth consciousness, as the Gnostics call it, created a hierarchy within its dimensional realm that's outside of this dimension. People call it the astral dimension, whatever. It's and these other dimensions, they're not like chest of drawers where people go, oh yeah, well I'm going to heaven. No, they share the same space, just like radio and television stations do. They're just on different wavelengths. That's the whole point. Different bands of frequency. And what the Gnostics call this first level of Yoda Baoth assets, they call them archons, which is Greek for rulers. And then this archontic level then oversees this other level within the astral dimension, which takes the form of what people call extraterrestrials, reptilian, greys, and many others. But the point being that this inverted, chaotic state of schismatic consciousness impacts itself, imposes itself, created indeed the mentality of this hierarchy. And this mentality can be summed up in the word psychopath. In fact, you know, you get to that level, you're talking about super psychopaths. And what this psychopathic mentality does not have is the ability for empathy, putting itself in the feelings of those it's affecting. So therefore, it has no emotional consequence for whatever it does. If you have empathy, I call empathy the fail-safe mechanism of human behavior, because if you can put yourself in the feelings of those you're affecting, it limits what you will do. And another thing, of course, in the psychopathic mentality is a deletion of compassion, the inability to feel it. And so this consciousness is expresses itself through this archontic level, and it expresses itself through this. Not all of them are like this, but expresses itself through this. They call them extraterrestrials. They're interdimensionals. Actually, they operate in this other dimension, very close to this one, but outside of our band of frequency, and they can come in. And when they come in, they appear out of nowhere, whether it's a craft or an individual entity. And then when they leave our visible light frequency band, they appear to the observer just to have disappeared into nowhere. And so people go, oh, you're mad, mate. What do you mean they appeared out of nowhere and appeared to go and disappear? And not possible, mate. Oh, it is, if you understand how it all kind of works. The point being then, this same Yoda Baoth consciousness comes down into this cult that is manipulating human society and dictating its direction. And therefore, the same mentality prevails. If you look at your Bill Gateses and your Klaus Schwabs and all these people that operate in this cult, and they're only at the gopher level, they're not the real orchestrators. They have this complete lack of empathy and compassion. They're like automatons. I don't think that's an accident either. And so this inner circle of this cult that is directing the direction of society has this same deletion of compassion, this same deletion of um, empathy, and thus it does what it does. It bombs, it bombs civilians. It does what the Israelis have done in Gaza since October the 7th. It has world wars. It has deprivation, and there's a reason why it has that as well. And therefore, what you're looking at is this mentality. Now, when you then ask the question, why does it do this? Why would it create a fake reality, a simulated reality? Why would it do this? Well, there is an answer, and it was summed up by, funnily enough, in the first Matrix movie, when the Morpheus character held up a battery and said, "The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world built to turn humans into into this." And that's what this is all about. This consciousness, Gnostics call Yoda Baoth, or the devil, Satan, and Christianity, etc. It feeds off, and its created minions of the same mentality feed off human energy. Now, the higher levels, it seems, of this matrix, archontic level, feeds off human energy kind of in general, but in the lower levels of this matrix, what people call the lower astral, they feed off a particular type of energy. And it's a low vibrational energy, which is basically founded on fear, the energy of fear. Fear generates an energy, a frequency when you feel fear, like all emotion. It's depression, it's regret, it's heartbreak, all these anxiety, all these low vibrational emotional states that have a low, slow frequency. That's what they feed off. And so the more of that they can generate, the more sustenance, the more energy, the more power that they have. The battery, again. And the whole point of this, the foundation of this matrix, is to entrap human perception and entrap humans in basically a closed system. It doesn't have to be closed, but it is if you stay within it. And you are generating events via this hierarchy down into the global cult, manipulating wars and manipulating deprivation. You are creating events which impact upon the population in terms of mental and emotional energy, so that you are generating vast amounts of low vibrational energy, particularly emotional energy. And these people are feeding off it. Now, when we come round to what is this God that people are worshipping? Well, I say that what we're looking at is the worship of this Yoda Baoth consciousness, which operates in terms of human perception in two guises. One is the devil, the Satan, the negative force, and people are kind of wary of the negative force, and they fear the negative force. But another guise that this Yoda Baoth consciousness is operating on is the God of almost the entirety of religions. And it's interesting, that saying, which is very, very true: energy flows where attention goes. So when you worship, it is a focused attention. What people call prayer is a focused attention, and worship, or the need to worship, comes from the reptilian brain, which scientists call the reptilian brain or the R complex. It's part of the human brain at the back here, where that probe went in the Matrix movies, appropriately. And the reptilian brain has many functions, a key one of which is it's constantly scanning the environment for threats to survival. Not just threats to bodily survival, but threats to survival of a relationship, survival of your job, survival in any form. Road rage comes from the reptilian brain, because the reptilian brain doesn't think, it reacts. And therefore, road rage is a reaction. People will react, and then the other parts of the brain will kick in, and they'll go, oh my God, what was I doing? What was I thinking? Well, you weren't. That's the point. It's the reptilian brain. Fight or flight, this response to danger, comes from the reptilian brain. This is all mainstream science I'm talking about here. So what I'm saying is that we are being manipulated to generate especially low vibrational energy in forms of emotion and thought, which they are feeding off. And so one other thing that will kind of, I hope, make some sense of this is that, one of the things that's been very, very clear to me over the decades, and more closer to present day, is that the technological advancement that we're seeing getting faster and faster, well, alleged advancement, is mirroring more and more through computerization, through AI, through all these other aspects. It's mirroring the very reality that we are experiencing and how we experience it. So if you said to people that have no knowledge of computers or Wi-Fi that there's not, because I don't use Wi-Fi here, but in most places in this room would be Wi-Fi. And that if you get a bit of kit called a computer, that bit of kit will lock in to the Wi-Fi, which is just a radiation field of encoded frequency information. And it will put whatever information you log it into on the screen in a completely different form to how it appears in the Wi-Fi field, the radiation field. If I said that to people who knew nothing about computers or Wi-Fi, they'd say that I was crazy. What are you talking about? You're mad, mate. Where is this Wi-Fi field? I can't see it. Well, you can hardly see anything, mate, because of visible light and the limitation of visible light.
Well, they tried to put, I think Marconi's mates tried to put him in the mental asylum, didn't they? When they said he had a thing where he could bring things through the ether, same thing,
Well, that's the thing with mainstream science. Until the evidence is overwhelming, it clings to the wreckage of its own belief system until its knuckles turn white. So the question then becomes, what is this matrix? Well, it's a field or fields of information, encoded information. And we are interacting with it, because what is our computer? It's this. That's why I've been calling it since the 1990s a biological computer. And, people think biological is natural and technological is human made. But how do you know that? How do you know that biological is natural? Unless you have something that is without question natural to compare it with, you have no way of knowing whether biological is natural. And the more that I've researched this cult and its kind of inner circle knowledge, the more it's become obvious that they don't treat the biological as natural. They treat it as a very advanced form of technology. And this human body is a program. It's a like a software program, just like the computer. And we're interacting with the matrix, and this biological computer is decoding the matrix into what we perceive to be the reality that we're experiencing. So people might think that is fantastic and that's just ridiculous and just far out. But hold on. When's the last time anyone remembers breathing? Only when they were out of breath. And second by second, fantastic adjustments and tweaks are happening in response to the environment and what's going on in the body within the biological computer. You go into a cold room, the body will compensate. You go into a hot room, the body will compensate immediately, like a computer, because that's what it is, in effect, a biological computer. But what I'm saying, and I've indicated this already with the reptilian brain, and there's so much more than that, there's also psychological programs running through the biological computer. And these are basically the base instincts and perceptions of reality of what we call humans. They're running through this program. One of the things that have really kind of hit me over the years before I started getting banned from loads of countries is when I was traveling around the world.
You're still banned, aren't you, from loads of countries?
Banned, yeah.
Oh God.
2022 now. I've been banned from
Wow.
most of Europe. But the thing is that traveling around the world before, you see all these different cultures and you see all these different religions and beliefs, but you see people reacting in the same situation in basically the same way. This is the body program. These are the body reaction programs. Now, what I'm saying is, if you do not awaken to consciousness, the true I, not the fake I, the phantom self, the wider I, the bigger I, consciousness, the eternal I, then the body program is running your life, and you can observe it. You know, if you just take a step back in terms of your awareness, you can observe the chatter going on through your head. If I said this to her and she said this to me, and I'm going to say that to her, and then and you know what she did to me, and he did to me as well. 1963, all this chatter's going on.
It's like a hell for most people.
That's the fricking program, and that which is observing at those times the program, that's consciousness, that's you, right?
The real you, like
real you, yeah. But we are obviously get confused between the body program, phantom self, and the consciousness, eternal self, and those that manipulate the matrix want that. So the way that we create this reality or decode this reality, it's done through the biological computer. So the five senses are what lock us in and connect us to this matrix fields. And you look at how the five senses work, and they all work the same. Whether it's sight or touch or whatever, the hearing, taste. It's all the same basic sequence. The and this is mainstream science again. The the five senses pick up frequency information from the field. They turn it into electrical information, which is then communicated to the brain. And the brain has different parts, different areas, which specialize in decoding the different senses. And then it puts together a sense of reality from that information. And therefore, just as this computer is decoding or would decode the Wi-Fi field, it's decoding this connection into a completely different form. It's decoding it inside the computer. We're just looking at the screen, but it's all going on inside the computer. Well, the way that we decode this reality into what appears to be an external reality, but is not, is all going on inside the computer. And therefore, this world, that as we experience it, is not external to us. It appears like that because that's all part of the perception manipulation process. But it's actually going on in here, just as it's going on inside the computer. And I'm talking here, for instance, but there's no words passing between us. What's passing between us is a vibrational field of information generated by my vocal cords. The ears pick up that frequency field, sound waves they call it, of course, turns it into electrical information, sends it to the brain, and the brain then decodes it into whatever language it's been programmed to understand. And then we hear words. And all the five senses kind of work like that. You know, there's I came across this in a hospital once where they were talking about a new form of pain relief, which was the understanding that, say you have a blow on the shin, you don't say ouch until the signal from the shin, the point of impact, has been decoded by the brain. That's where you feel pain. And this form of pain relief was to break that signal, to stop it getting to the brain. And thus you don't say ouch because the pain doesn't get communicated from the point of impact to the, or wherever the pain is, to the brain. And so it, you know, this is what's happening all the time. And the more, therefore, that we can be manipulated through this matrix, virtual reality game, to respond to events that are presented to us in a low vibrational emotional way, the more wars, the more conflict, the more division, the more deprivation, the more suffering, the more what has been called loosh, this low vibrational energy in general for the archons, but for the lower reaches, absolutely the low vibrational stuff. The more that's produced, and this is what is happening. We are entrapped to become loosh generators for this archontic and lower archontic force, which is absorbing this energy. And suddenly Trump or Harris takes on a completely new light. Trump or Vance, Starmer or Farage, you know, and you can see why they want you focused. This is the conspiracy. I'm going to vote for reform this time in Farage because he's the savior. He's going to sort it out. That's where they want you, because once you because once you realize what the game is, um, and you realize that the whole foundation of it is to get incarnate awareness to forget its true nature. And when you expand your awareness, you expand your self-identity, not only do you start tapping into levels of awareness beyond the matrix, you tap into that level because your frequency has expanded. Your frequency has got higher and quicker, and therefore it's able to make a frequency connection to that which is beyond the matrix. Otherwise, you're in the matrix and of the matrix, and therefore the whole idea of the big conspiracy is to stop that connection being made. And when that connection is made, what do we call it? We call it awakening. Now, you can awaken, and this is where so many people are at. You can awaken from the little prison cell to the bigger prison cell, slightly bigger prison cell. Oh, there is a conspiracy then, and it's politics and finance and Silicon Valley and all that stuff. Or you can go beyond that barricade and you can go into the real expanded levels of awareness, the true I, and thus you can, what I would say, truly awaken, which is the memory of who we really are, rather than what we're constantly, incessantly told we are. And therefore, when you, and you know, this thing called death, which frightens people. What is death? Okay. What happens when the computer screen goes blank? We say, my computer's just died. Exactly. So what is death? It's when the biological computer, for whatever reason, ceases to function. When it ceases to function, it ceases to decode the matrix and deliver that fake reality to your awareness. And suddenly that awareness, no longer having that fake reality delivered to it, finds itself in another reality, which you hear all the time with these near-death experiences, etc. And there's a whole story that I tell in the roadmap about and other books about the afterlife. And you know, this matrix has other levels as well, and we need to get out of all of it, which we can. But you can only do that if your frequency takes you beyond the walls of the matrix, and what takes you into the higher frequencies is the expansion of your self-identity, what you believe you are. Because if you believe you're Ethel on the checkout or Bill driving the bus, and that's all you are, then you are in a tiny sense of self-identity.
I'm Jason Neil Satis, I am.
Yeah, well, yeah, but you know, this is all the way they give us a kind of a life story and a sense of reality, and mostly it's either I've got no power. I look to authority. They tell me they must know. These scientists must know. Or, oh no, I just follow God or do what God tells me to do. And the
always out there, isn't it?
Interestingly, the reptilian brain. This is again mainstream science. The urge to worship God comes from the reptilian brain. So you have this this consciousness, Yoda Bayoff, in two guises. One is the negative force, which you're like frightened of, and the other one is the God force, which you look to protect you from the negative force, when actually it's the same frigging consciousness it's all a game. And you know, when people think this is all crazy, I mean, it's all what I don't understand what you're talking about. Well, have a look at this. Go onto a video platform and put in words to the effect of the virtual reality game compilations, and you'll see something that just brings all this home. What you'll see is people in a room, just a normal room as they perceive it, putting a headset on in one of these video games. And immediately they put it on, their sense of reality is completely overwhelmed and becomes something else. They're in a room, they were in a room, the same room they put their headset on in, and now they're screaming, they're running, they're falling over, because what's happened? If you look at these virtual reality games, okay, headset, sight sense, audio, hearing sense, gloves, touch sense, all these things. What are they doing? They're hacking in to the five senses, which then are overridden by the information from the game, and it takes over your sense of reality. Now, you are a consciousness and you enter in the womb as the biological computer is developing. You come out of the womb, and all the way through to when you end up in the cemetery,
Mummy, daddy.
the biological computer is delivering to you a sense of reality and a perception of reality all the way through. Now, everyone else is basically decoding the same basic sense of reality. There are, of course, differences in emphasis, but the same basic reality. And they're all confirming to each other that this reality is real. But unlike the headset, where you can go, whoa, thank God, it's a game. You can't stop this delivering your sense of reality and your perception of reality, short of this ceasing to function at what we call death.
People say to me, "Are you Jason?" They come in my shop. "Are you Jason?" I said, "Bloody hope not."
Yeah, it's
No.
just a name. And now this is the thing, Jason. You can go through your life and you can kind of, enjoy it and all the rest of it, but all the time you have this constant understanding that what you are having is an experience, actually an illusory experience. It's not you. It's not real. And what that does is take away so much of the impact that the Matrix has upon you,
Yeah.
because it's not actually what you are experiencing is not actually how it is. It's just how it's being interpreted to you. But you can enjoy your life and you can get pleasure out of it. But it's always knowing that what the situation is that you're in. And that knowing, that conscious knowing, stops the matrix impacting upon you in anything like the same way. I'll give you an example. Most of the programming of humans is subconscious programming. The conscious mind is a very small part of consciousness. Most of it's subconscious. And it's in the subconscious, they want to plant these perceptions because then they'll filter through to the conscious mind, and the conscious mind thinks, oh, I've just had a thought. Oh, I tell you what, I've just had some intuition. But actually, it's stuff that's been implanted. Now, this is called in advertising subliminal advertising, and this is why this information is so important, because what you're communicating to is the conscious mind. What you're doing is you're taking information from the subconscious level, and you're delivering it to the conscious level. And once the conscious level is aware of it, it's the impact of it upon perception and behavior dramatically diminishes. Now, over the years, I've used a picture in one or two books, and it's four plants, four flowers, and there's a subliminal, clear subliminal, when it's pointed out, in this picture. And most people, like 95% of people, don't see it immediately. And then you point it out. And what it is, it's the word made up of the white bits between the flowers.
What was the word again, David? You cut out then.
Sex. It's
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
very clear. The point is, where I'm going with this, is once it's pointed out, every time you see that picture again, right into as long forward as you want to go, the first thing you see when you see that picture is the subliminal. Why? Because it's been taken from the subconscious. It's been the conscious mind has been alerted to it, and now it loses its impact because the conscious mind is aware of it. And this is why this information is so important, because basically what is this cult? It's hidden. What is the subconscious? It's hidden from the conscious mind. So therefore, as you take this information from the hidden and you present it to the conscious mind of the population, suddenly they become so much less affected by this matrix than they were before, and that's why they don't want it. Oh, sorry, may I hear?
Hey, people.
Yeah, they don't want that out. This is what censorship is all about. And if you notice, again, we come back to what I was speaking about towards the start. Religion tells you that to go beyond its stories into that infinity of possibility is blasphemy.
Yeah.
And the devil and the occult. The occult, that's a word that just means hidden. And hidden knowledge can be used, and it is, to enslave us and to abuse us. But the same knowledge can be used in a different way to set us free. Now,
you can only go through the priest.
It's the set us free part they don't want us to explore. And orthodox science wants to stop us going into those same areas through pseudoscience or the paranormal. And so it's all there to keep you in the box. And I've always worked on the principle over the last 36 years now of whatever I know or think I know, there's always more to know. That is a fact that cannot be questioned. Really,
the more I know, the more I know. My dad used to say to me, "You think you know everything?" I say, "No, I don't think I know bloody anything. What are you talking about?"
Yeah. Well, the thing is that what happens when you think I've got it? You stop. You don't go any further because you got it now. Well, none of us have got it. What we're doing is getting it. And the only way you get it is by having an open mind to all possibility. It doesn't mean you believe everything.
Like you said about worship, it's bloody great you mentioned that. I love that. The worship trap, and the guru trap. I mean,
the guru trap. It's another version of the worship trap.
they're often the most bloody horrible assholes you can ever meet when you have a good look at their lives behind the scenes, you know. It's quite disappointing quite often. I never put people on a pedestal anymore because it's always like, oh my God, you know.
Yeah, but
Gee.
the guru trap. I've never been into gurus, or any of it. But it's like I have to. What do what is said about Christianity? Only through me can
Mm.
you get to heaven. Well, what is the guru mentality? Only through someone else can I expand my awareness.
The revolving door trap,
No,
yeah.
it's not bloody true. Do you
No.
know when I started out 36 years ago, 1990, um, I the only people that would give me any kind of platform at all, it weren't much of one, but it was I was glad of it in those days, was what people call the New Age. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and so I would turn up at some like conferences in America in the 1990s. Um, when
What was that, David? I didn't miss that bit. What was
they put me on in the smallest room at the end of the night,
that?
and when everyone had gone home,
Yeah.
what it meant was that during the day I could watch these other people that got the big audiences in those days, and I looked at it and I thought, you're making it sound so bloody complicated. You've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to go on a quest and all this stuff. No, for me, it's much simpler than they're telling you. Complexity is there to hide the simple behind it. But so for me, it's just expanding your self identity from I am human to I am expanded awareness, consciousness. Ultimately, all consciousness, if I expand my awareness in its totality, not that infinity has a totality, then everything changes. It goes beyond your quests. These are all stepping stones. It's like, then you have to do this. Oh, I remember someone saying to me, who's like a kind of a guru type figure, they're saying, oh, you're trying to go too fast. I said, no, I'm not going fast enough, mate. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you need to scrub the floors in an ashram for 10 years first, David.
This is all nonsense. You redefine your self identity, and then you go through life holding that self identity. Oh, everybody gets pulled in here and there, and they get pulled into the program. But the more that you are aware, the more as you get pulled in the program, you think, oh, getting pulled in the program, withdraw, taking this too seriously. And it's not as complex as people believe. It's a very simple process. What's the challenge? You see, we are awake. We're all awake at some level of awareness. What stops us connecting with that awakeness level of self are all the onion skins of programs, perceptual programs, that we are subjected to from cradle to grave. So basically, the process of awakening is removing those onion skins of programs. Now, what you can do is you can take a layer off, and then take another layer off, and then another layer off. Oh, there's still a lot more layers left. Or you can blast the whole lot out of sight by completely redefining your self identity. And that for me is how you can awaken massively very fast once you go through that evaluation of who you actually are. And that's what they want us to forget. And that's why just to complete the chat here, that's why they want AI human fusion. That's why, and they're openly talking about it now, they want to fuse humans with artificial intelligence so that artificial intelligence becomes the human mind. It becomes the thought processes, it becomes the emotional reaction processes. So Loosh is on tap for a start. But once AI is thinking for you, and it's thinking for people more and more already, in the totality as well as in the individual. Once that happens, you won't ask questions like, who am I? What is this place? What am I doing here? How did I get here? Who's running the world? To what end? That which controls AI is not going to have AI questioning the big questions like that. And that's what they want. This is the end game of where they want to take humans to a point where we don't even think for ourselves anymore.
Yeah.
And it's happening. It's happening all the time.
Oh, it's happening so bloody fast now. It's unbelievable, you know. And
But consciousness is more powerful than any of it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
This is the two-stone weakling and the village idiot compared with consciousness.
Yeah.
We have to tap into that and become that to access that power and that perceptual transformation.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Well said, David. Before we go, I kept you too long, I know, but it's been bloody great speaking to you. Honestly, it's like I had a little evening with you. It's fantastic, mate. Before I leave, I just want to say one thing. Many people, and this isn't to get an answer off you, it's been great speaking to you, David. Just to round this off for people, right? And I'm going to have a little rant when I say goodbye to David. I can't help it because I'm bursting. I'll say something, but many people are saying to me now, David, that they feel so different. They feel like they're in the world and outside the world. I know there's a great shift taking place. I know there is. And they say they feel different, and it's almost like excruciating. I think it's what you were saying about the death of the old self.
Yeah.
And people are really feeling it. And I want people to go and have a look at a film called Defending Your Life. Albert Brooks was the producer, and he was in it. And he went to another place of reality. And when he was up there, they assess you. And if you've got to come back down, God forbid, if you've got to come back here. But he said to him as a joke, he said, how much of my brain do you think I use? This is the enlightened sort of guy who was testing him. He said, I use 37% of my brain. He said, how much do you think you use? To Albert Brooks, who's just come from Earth. He said, 36. He said, 3. He said, 3. He said, if you use more than 3% of your brain, you couldn't be on Earth. It'd be too excruciating, you know. So, but there's a great shift, and people are, the smelling sauces out there, David. Thanks to people like you, mate, and I appreciate what you've done so much over the years, mate. You've been a great instrument to help people hold their hands and help them come into the light and come back towards themselves like a bungee jump. Thanks for all you've done, mate. It's bloody amazing. DavidIcke.com. I'm just about to choke. David Icke, thanks for everything you've done for people. It's massive what you've done, and you've kept going. You really are a beacon of light for people, mate. What you've done all over these years. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll continue doing so. The other platform is iconic.com, of course, which
Iconic.
Is just a fantastic platform. And well worth a peruse.
Yep. It's amazing what you've done. Thanks so much, David. I'm going to have a quick rant. We'll say goodbye to David Icke. Thanks for your time, mate. Great to see you, mate. Take care. There he goes, David Icke. My God alive. Wow, that's amazing. Crikey Moses. I'm just going to say one or two things, but I won't stay long, honestly, because it was so lovely just sat back and listening to David, saying these great truths. And it is very, very simple, like David said. We've been literally turned into batteries, Like I said at the beginning, we've been turned into prostitutes and beggars. Even me in my shop, I'm selling my artwork. Go to jasonleosatisart.com and you'll see. But although it's a wonderful thing I think I do, I paint pictures and I sound to people, we've still been turned into beggars and prostitutes to market what we do and try and sell what we're doing, It really is bad. And like David said, that it feeds off your energy, the system, to make profit for it. That thing. And I called it a spider's web in my book, like the student loan trap or something like that. You've got to get a job. You've got to get a job. So the lights, I was looking out my bedroom window one night and there was a street light with a spider's web over it with a giant spider in there. And there was thousands of flies hurling themselves at the light, literally, because the light is the food that they need, whether that's a job or whether it's food or whether it's clothing or shelter or water or whatever. Status, respect, you're a nobody, you haven't got a job. And the system's brilliantly designed, but I thought, my God, that's a brilliant analogy for the student loan trap I was talking about, because the students or people, they've got to get to that light, and to get to that light, they've got to go into the trap, like David's book, The Trap, um, which is the web, the spider's web. And once you're in it, at least with the spider, it cocoons you and eats you in 2 weeks. With this bloody system that we're in, it gets you, it traps you. You leave school, it lends you the money for your education. Your education, real education, comes from the word educo, to educe, to draw from within. I think it's a Latin word, yeah. And it keeps you trapped for the rest of your life. So, you know, um, oh, I don't know where I was going with that, but I just want to say that we're in desperate need of another system now, a different system. And I would have loved to talk to David about that system. We've got a naturalearthecoliving.com. I've got a lady on the show tomorrow night. We're talking about it, Liz. Sorry, tomorrow morning, I think. We're talking about that. And really, this system is dying because it's choking us, it's killing us, it's snuffing us out. We're so consumed by it. It takes all our energy, and it's wrong. So now what? What do we do now? Because I was just going to say to David, about the shift that's taking place now. I was going to ask him in his opinion and experience, what's next? What's next? Well, maybe the system's got to crumble a bit more or choke people a little bit more before people realize that they can't stay in this system. And we are at that point of that. I was got it in an inflection point, a crossroads. David talks about a lot of crossroads in his books, whereby if we don't take another path now, the path that is pulling us towards it is the giant trap, which is AI and digital ID. It's a giant trap because once you go through those gates, if you want to survive and eat and pay bills and pay rent and get a car license, you have to be in that system, that digital ID system. But the sad thing is about it is it will dictate whatever it wants you to do, and you'll have to do it, or it will cut you off. And I've said many, many times on my shows and in my writing and in my book. My book's called The Emergency Transformation of Human Beings as the solution to the world's problems. You can see that on my website, jasonleosadis.com. I wrote it 14 years ago, and I talk about that a lot in there, and about the new epoch, for instance. The word epoch comes from the Greek word epoche, which actually means stoppage, yeah, in Greek. It means stoppage. And the analogy I give there, it's not an analogy, it's the truth. And I think we're at a stage now with humanity where we've come, like in any pregnancy, there's a time when the pregnancy stops and the birth begins, that transition point. And that's where we are now, I believe. And people can feel it because it's so excruciating. Yeah. And that's a positive thing when it feels so painful to be in this system, almost unbearable. Like David said, we talked with David. Once you start, for want of a better word, awakening, or you start seeing things for what they are, in one sense, it's a great relief because you realize, oh my God, no wonder I felt depressed all over these years. My depression and my anxiety and my anger and my discontent was actually a natural symptom from a healthy, beautiful spirit, body, and mind that was trapped and being punished in a system of slavery and madness. So when people say to me, I feel so depressed, almost suicidal sometimes, some people tell me in my shop, I say, that's almost exactly how you should feel, because that's a natural symptom from living in this slavery, right? But of course, you don't want to stay feeling like that. And that's what in my book, I give plenty of examples and solutions to raising that vibration above that pain and misery, even whilst you're still in the job or the system that you're in, to relieve yourself of that. solutions and to take away the symptoms, which is very important. But anyway, I won't go on too much here, but I just really wanted to say that. And to all the people, we did touch on it with David, that they said, oh, well, I don't have to do anything then. If the biblical thing is playing itself out, I don't have to do anything. Everything's happening perfectly. What you resist persists. You don't have to, if you look at negative things, you're making it worse. You're magnifying it. No, no, no. If you don't do anything, you've got to remember, because our system is almost a set of consequences and feedback loops and outcomes from previous decisions made with or without vision and wisdom, right? So our current lives and our system is almost like a consequence because it's from what we've done previously. Yeah. So thought creates things and you build it with your hands, or with whatever, or with an army, or with nurses in a hospital or whatever. But what we've got to do now is realize even if we don't do anything, we're still creating those consequences further down the timeline. So the big discussion I could have had with David, which I would have loved to have, and I think David is quite simple about this thing. He just, if you say, David, what can we do? You just say, I've heard him say on my shows before, just stop complying. That's it. Just don't buy in. And a lot of people are doing that now. A lot of people are not paying their bills, their water bills, their food bills, their this bills, their that bills, and all those kinds of things. They're not paying them. They're saying, that's it. I'm not doing it. And that's where I'm going to get the chap from Cabby on the show. I know a lady recently, she was just had her own number plates on her car and didn't pay insurance on that, but they did arrest her, so I don't know what's happened so far. But what I'm saying to round all this off is we are the magicians, and I say we're magicians with amnesia. We are the ones that and stop people, please stop saying when they comment on the thing, look, Jason's doing the hand signs. Ooh, I'm not doing the hand signs, I'm just moving my hands because I'm Greek. Right? I pontificate. Um, the solution lies with us. David says the same kind of thing. We are the solution. We don't have to look outside there for the solution, but what we've got to do is remember our power first and our magnificence. We're like magicians with amnesia. Yeah, I say in my book a lot about artists. I'm only going to stay a couple more minutes. Hang on a minute, right? We're artists, real artists, manifestors, and at any canvas that we paint on, whether it's the world canvas of events or our own personal lives, we can change that canvas. We must remember that. And if it's so trashed that it's a bloody bin job, then we can create another canvas. So never, people, please never feel like it's hopeless and desperate. Yeah. That's what the system wants you to feel. Yeah. In hypnotism, it's a fact. Look it up. If you hypnotize someone and cease, as hypnotists do, and you take away their future, they become very melancholy and depressed. And that's because what you've done is you've taken away their hope. And we need hope, right? So I'm giving you some hope now to tell you a tremendous world is still available to us. However bad this one seems, we can create a new system, okay? And I just want to show you my painting. I think I sent it to David. This is one of my political paintings I've done. It's called Refuse to Fight, yeah? Look, freeze the screen and have a look, yeah? Refuse to fight. I mean, can you imagine if every military personnel, of course, they've got to do it because they got a family and they got food they got to buy, they got bills, and they'll get court-martials and I think they even kill you if you desert now, yeah? If you desert, we'll kill you. But saying no is a great thing. It's one of the most spiritual things. Don't think saying no is a weakness. It's not. It's like no. It's very powerful in the spiritual world. Yeah. So, and just remember, we can find solutions. And sometimes you can only find things once you begin. It's very much like that. When I started my book, David would know about this with his book. You start a book, you think, what am I going to talk about? Boom, and then you just get going and you carry on. So often better tools and better systems will present themselves once we put our foot on the walkway towards another world, another possibility. Because I'm telling you, if we don't create new systems now, when it comes to AI and digital slavery, um, it'll be much easier for them to stop you. So if you say, well, I'm going to get a farm now and we're going to create a community with our own food and our own water, our own center for transformation, consciousness and development, yeah, they'll say, no, you won't, because we'll just switch you off. We'll switch your bank accounts off if you do such a thing. So that kind of thing is coming. So we have to rise above fear, like David said. Fear is very paralytic to consciousness and development in a human being, just like it is with an animal or a dog. You're controlled by fear all the time, which most people are in this system, is fear-based. Debt based is based on short-term greed, profit, power, debt, and slavery. So that's very paralytic to consciousness and development in a human being. So it should be based on happiness, joy, freedom, caring, sharing, blah blah blah. But it's not. It's based on the opposite of what it should be. And like David was saying, it's like evil. It's awful. Anyway, that's it. I think I'm going to stop there because I'm getting carried away, but only because I wanted David to speak and I didn't want to jump in. Um, uh, what's that there? I was just going to say. Oh yeah, one more thing I want to just say with the digital AI. There's a very good Star Trek episode called The Cage with Dr. Spock and Captain Kirk. A great mentor of mine, Charles Muses, was very friendly with Gene Roddenberry, who was the founder of the original Star Trek series. This one's called The Cage, and Spock and that are put in this plastic sort of room, perspex room, and those guys with the big heads, are just looking in, and they don't say anything. They don't even use any words, but they're telepathic, and they can even tell when you're planning something against them. And it was called The Cage. And every time Spock and Kirk used to say anything bad about them or think about trying to get out, there was an invisible collar around their necks, which had choked them, yeah? That is what's coming to us if we don't create new systems. And naturalearthecoliving.com, which I thought with the link will be underneath this show. And I got another lady on this week, Liz, who's talking about another and other people who are trying to create new communities. So out of this, as I said in the beginning, the more the choking hands of slavery are put around our throats, the more we will find another system. Yeah. Okay. So it's often the pain and the excruciating torture of one system that forces us towards finding another system. Yeah. If the water and the food runs out in a village somewhere in the old days in the Amazon or something, they go and they try and find something else. So that's good. All right, we're in a good place. I am very positive, and I've got a lot of hope for humanity. But it's almost like evil's got it. I'm not doing the biblical thing here, but it seems to it's showing its true face now. And I've said many times in my shows that I think there will come a cut time where evil won't even try and hide anymore. With Obama and Clinton and Bush and all those, they were pretending that they were good people when they were bombing and killing people, at least. These lot, Trump, Netanyahu, and their ilk, Witkoff, Kushner, and what's his name? David mentioned him. Um, they don't care. They're just saying, we don't care. We'll bomb them. We'll kill them. Well, and what Trump even said, oh, and we'll bomb them again just for fun. These are the words of psychopaths. And these are the kind of people who need to be quarantined immediately and put into quarantine and locked up until they can either be rehabilitated or maybe they won't be able to do anything else anymore. Apparently, on a much higher level, on a soul level, apparently, there's a time where if souls don't show that they're going to purify themselves and move onward, then they have to get sort of, that's it. You had your chances, that's enough. So I feel that that's where we are now. Evil's shown its real true face. But I'm very positive. I'm very motivated and excited about these next few months and the next year or so, because I truly believe that the more the shackles of digital ID come on us, the more we're going to be forced to try and create new communities independent of government control and slavery. Government in its current form is a sickness. There is no doubt about that. The government that governs the best is the government that governs the least. Yeah. The least the better. And I please go and see my other shows, jasonthesantis.com. I've got Dane Wigington. We're talking a lot about the geoengineering now. The Guardian, George Monbiot, the BBC and the Times did hit jobs on me saying I was a conspiracy fantasist because or fictionist because I was talking about geoengineering as a fact. Look what's happened. Look at the skies, yeah. People are feeling ill, people are feeling tired, and they just keep spraying it out. It's going to change, believe me. Everything's going to change, and I do believe we'll create new very exciting communities, very, very exciting communities, which will run parallel to the ones that we don't want to be in. But we've got to create them. And I think the more people see how exciting those templates are, you'll get more people coming across. And I think we can work with farmers. Tomorrow, I've got Andrew on, and he is a local man here in Totnes, great guy. And the link will be under the show. I'm going to be an affiliate for his product as well. You'll get a discount if you use my code. Andrew created an amazing invention that actually cuts the usage of fuel by a huge amount in vehicles. Yeah, and he'll be explaining all about it tomorrow on the show. He's here in Totnes. And it's very, very exciting, especially now that you put 20 quid's worth of diesel or petrol in your car. And it's like, what? What's happening? Thanks to the streets of Hormuz being closed, thanks to the lunatics and psychopaths who are bombing Iran. Well, we'll see what happens. But for the time being, I'll say goodbye. Get my book, of course, jasonleosatis.com. You'll see it there, The Emergency Transformation of Human Beings. My website's jasonleosatisart.com. My gallery's in Totnes. Come and say hello if you're here. My wife's website is naturalearthecoclothing.com. She's an amazing designer and she designs organic clothes, all sourced very ethically and wonderfully. And the other website again is naturalearthecoliving.com. And I think that's it for me. I don't know, but David probably needs to lie down after that chat we had. And we're up to nearly 2 hours now. So, but I always appreciate David's time. DavidIcke.com. The books I've just got a few of them written down. I got them downstairs. Most of them, The Trap, The Dream, The Reveal, The Trigger. I remember he sent me that just before one of the shows we did years ago. It was about that thick. It was like, wow. The Treasure Robots Rebellion is one of my favorite titles. Robots Rebellion, yeah, the Robots Rebel. Then the recent one, The Roadmap. David was kind to me years ago. He used to put me on his platform, The People's Voice, and like I said, I met him probably going on 40 years ago now. I don't know, in Bath when he did a talk. There wasn't many people there, and look what's happened now. I think David said to me, and I'll say it here again, he couldn't hardly walk down the streets of England without someone, ha ha ha, there's David Icke, after the Wogan thing, where Wogan laughed at him. But by God, it's not so funny now. All the things that David was saying about Epstein. I know people in Parliament that told me, Edward Heath, Lord Mountbatten, Cyril Smith, blah, 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 all these people, pedophiles. And that was before Jimmy Savile, before Prince Andrew, and before Epstein. I was told by someone in Parliament that they're all pedophiles. And also, I have to say here, they did say Prince Charles as well. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But that's what they said. And he pointed at Parliament and he said, they all know in there. He said, but they're untouchable. Clearly not so untouchable nowadays because it's all coming out. And let's see what happens with Trump. It seems to me like he's up to his neck in it. So finally, the truth's coming out. It always does. The truth always comes to the surface in the end. And I think that's it for me. Oh, believe it or not, let's have a quick look what I got to do here. That's it. I just think I say end and it goes off. So yeah, lots of love to you all. As I always say at the end of my shows, I love you all dearly, whoever you are, whatever you are. Be kind to yourself. It is a bit of a biblical thing, but it's just an obvious truth. Treat other people like you like to be treated. If everyone did that, we'd be living in a virtual harmony. There's no borders, like David said. Divide and conquer. Yeah. Yeah. Problem, reaction, solution. It's so easy to control people. If you go up in a hot air balloon, there is no borders from up there. If you had some intelligent being from another realm of symbiosis, and you said, hey, look at that's Iran, that's blah blah blah, that's Iraq, that's Israel, that's blah blah blah. They're fighting them, they're killing them, they're killing them, they funded them. Netanyahu funded them, so he'd kill them, so he'd be able to do that. And not. It's a mental asylum. It really is. This become normal. It's a global casino, mental asylum, become normal, and it's absolutely mad. Okay. Go to Patreon if you want to support me there. I always need support. Once I was banned off YouTube years ago, I don't know, 50,000 subscribers, which is not a lot, but I never really recovered fully from that. And I don't monetize things as I should do, actually. So if you want to support me on Patreon, go there and support me on Patreon. I've started another YouTube channel now. I don't know how long it'll be before they ban me on that one, but you can find me on there. You can find me on Rumble and other places. But jasonneosauris.com is the best place to go because that goes to my gallery and everything like that. And I'll see you all tomorrow. And just to say, I love you all. Love each other. Be kind to each other. Try and be happy inside and tap into that tremendous power within yourself. Still a chattering mind. My book talks about that a lot. And just feel that tremendous power and peace within ourselves because you are a brilliant artist and paint a great picture for yourself and for other people. We must act. We must. So thanks very much again to David Icke and love you all. See you again tomorrow. Bye bye.